Hello my friends, Midnight Geek here. I'm a simple man. All I want is this, playing this, on this at 800 by 600. My mission, should I choose to accept it, is make this possible. The computer I'll be using tonight is this one. Built a few months ago, you can see the video in the description. It has a GeForce 4 Ti, but I've changed the video card recently to a GeForce 3 Ti. What? I like downgrades. The reason I'm using 800 by 600 on this CRT is simple. It supports 85 Hz. At 1024 by 768 it can do only 60, and we can't have that. There are some games that set the refresh rate to 60 Hz when in game, and to counter that I'm using DirectX Override from DXDiag. Set it to 85 Hz and forget. This works only for Direct3D games, allegedly. In order to gauge the true extent of a video card's power, I always test games older than the card. In this case, Pod, a game developed by Ubisoft and released in 1997. The game should run like a charm, considering its requirements: Pentium MMX, 4x CD-ROM drive, SVGA video card, 60 MB of RAM, and 20 MB hard disk space. Retro geeks, ladies and gentlemen, pretending to be period correct, but using 4 generations newer components. This game runs at 640 by 480, 4x anti-aliasing, and 8x anisotropic. And as you can see, we have 100 FPS all the time, with small drops here and there. The game uses 70 MB of RAM from the system, and 10 MB of video memory from the video card. Please have in mind that I'm going to show the system RAM and video memory used by the game, not the total value used by the entire system. This was just the warm-up, but before moving to newer games, a short something about this one. Pod is an arcade racing game set in a distant future on a strange planet, where stuff happened. Okay, the story is weird, and I quote, "The game is set in the distant future on the planet Io. A mining accident unleashes a fungus from within the planet on its inhabitants, causing widespread panic. After most of the population escapes the planet, a few survivors remain on Io, with only one ship remaining. The survivors soup up cars which they race in tournaments, the winner of the final tournament taking the last ship and escaping to safety, leaving the others to die. Yeah, you will find more joy inside the cemetery. The sense of speed is amazing in this game, and although it's not Star Wars Episode 1 Racer, it still feels good. What I don't like is that the car stops abruptly when hitting other cars or objects. For a game from 1997, I'm impressed. It looks nice and plays accordingly. Unreal Tournament was released 2 years prior to the GeForce 3 Ti 200. Also, I want this weapon to return in one way or another. Please. The game runs great at 800 by 600, 32-bit high settings. I've also added 8x anisotropic into the mix. Unfortunately, using anti-aliasing drops the performance way below the 60 FPS. On this map we have around 100 FPS while alone and 50-60 during intense combat scenes, which is perfect for this game. The game requires a 200 MHz Pentium processor, 64 MB of RAM, and an 8 MB video card. And again, we're way over these specs. Using Riva Tuner, we see that Unreal Tournament uses 105 MB of RAM and 61 MB of video memory. 61 is a lot, and it's very far from the 8 MB recommended. One of the OG's arena shooters, Unreal Tournament has stellar graphics, courtesy of the Unreal Engine, fast and engaging gameplay, and thoughtful level design. The name of the game for this one is Diversity. In weapons, items, maps, game types. We have 6 game types, maps set in various environments, castles, spaceships, space. Then the weapons, a lot of weapons. But besides that, the weapons have alternate fire. Press right click and the weapon will behave differently. Screamer 4x4 was released in the year 2000. People have all but forgotten about the Y2K virus and decided to chill with an amazing off-road game. Just like the previous game, I'm still not having any issues with the recommended requirements. Pentium at 300 MHz, 64 MB of RAM and 60 MB of video memory. The game runs great, even with 2x quality anti-aliasing and 8x anisotropic, 45-50 FPS all the time, with maximum loading distance. Screamer uses 72 MB of system memory and 19 MB of video memory. I've never played this game until now, and I was made aware of it after seeing one of Phil's Computer Labs videos. He seemed to be enjoying the game, and I said to myself, why not? Plus, the GOG description was compelling enough. Listen to this.
Tired of being a Sunday driver?
Uh-huh.
Had enough of the same old rigid road course?
Yes.
Want to get rough and dirty? Rough and dirty?
What's this game about again? And people accuse me of doing innuendos. So, a game where you freely drive on a given map with rough terrain, slopes, diverse weather and others, with road-ready vehicles using a quite advanced physics for its time. With the exception of these two weirdos right here, which remind me of this other weirdo, the game feels really nice to play. The car has high and low traction, we're using high when we want higher speeds and don't need to climb a lot, and low for climbing and more precise acceleration. Also, you can change between 4x2 or 4x4 driving with a button. Honestly, I don't get the purpose of 4x2, the car is extremely unhandleable, which is the state of having bad handling. Yeah, wild but pleasant. That type of game where you can just jump in, have 10 minutes of fun and that's it. Screamer and chill. Legacy of Kain Soul River 2. Released in 2001, this is one of the games that I've greatly desired to play properly over the years. I've always started playing, always stopped after half an hour. This game requires a 700 MHz processor and 128 MB of system memory. The recommended video card memory is 32 MB, half the amount that we have on the GeForce 3. 70-80 FPS all the time at 800 by 600, high settings, 4x anti-aliasing and 8x anisotropic, on a game released in the same year as the card. Who said that older video cards could not do anti-aliasing properly? Well, here you go. The game uses just 46 MB of system memory, and no, it's not a mistake. I've triple checked this. It uses 33 MB of video memory though. Exactly. Besides the fact that I find the camera obnoxious and that the game wants me to have a cinematic experience each time I open the door, nothing to complain about, at least in the beginning. Well, although Raziel looks cool, he has some tiny wings. Come on, he looks funny, he needs bigger wings, and the bigger wings should give him more than 1 second of hover. Just saying, just saying. Medal of Honor Allied Assault was released in January of 2002, 3 months after the GeForce 3 Ti200. The minimum specs are 733 MHz Pentium 3, 120 MB of RAM and 60 MB of VRAM. The game is built on the Quake 3 engine, and although the engine in itself is well optimized, I could not make the game work above 40 in combat, when using anti-aliasing or anisotropic. So, no AA or AF. The lowest FPS was 50 during combat with multiple enemies, in rest over 70. I consider this as good frames for 800 by 600 high settings. I did not use the highest settings because the FPS drops to uncomfortable levels. But not as uncomfortable as this epic but really sad music. Listen to this and tell me that this is not the best funeral music you have ever heard. Also, I realized that for some reasons I suck at this game. But after many failed attempts, I've decided to power through. Yeah baby, look at me go. Because I'm a pro, I'm confident enough playing with 2 health. Medal of Honor is a simple game with simple gameplay, straightforward objectives, the type of game I enjoy the most. PnP, pick up and play, no nonsense stuff. Speaking about no nonsense, I finished Serious Sam the First Encounter recently. The game should run well, as you can see, the recommended requirements are decent. Looking at the requirements for all games that I've played for this video, I've noticed that all of them require slow CPUs, all under 1000 MHz, even for the recommended requirements, and even games from 2004. I am playing this game at 800 by 600 high settings, 32-bit, and it runs great, around 60 during combat. Serious Sam has a strange predilection of feeling wobbly at around 40-50 FPS. The weapon becomes heavy, and you can feel some kind of lag when moving the mouse. So 60 FPS is the target for this game, otherwise I won't play it. The game requires 128 MB of system RAM, as recommended, not minimum, but instead it uses 160 MB. I'm telling you, RAM was the biggest scam in the early 2000s. All companies assured us that we only need so much RAM. That's why computers back then had low amounts of it, resulting in swapping problems. The software and the games unloaded their assets onto the hard drive instead of the RAM. The hard drives were extremely slow, hence loads of stutters inside the operating systems, software and games. Please have a look at this level. We have around 6 elements in total: the player, the enemies, the playable area, the background area, the skybox and the moon. Very simple. But this level looks amazing. I was awed the first time I saw it. It simply looks right. On the other hand, I'm in an arena here. The game just tosses random enemies at me. I am pretty sure that 50% of the enemies are placed by the developers with a purpose, and the other 50% are added all over the place just to have more enemies on the screen. Morrowind is a game with low minimum requirements that trashes any computer from 2002, the year it was released. Well, it requires a 500 MHz Pentium 3, 256 MB of RAM, yeah sure, and 32 MB of video memory. Again, 800 by 600 high settings. You were lucky if you had the computer to play this game at decent frame rates with these settings in 2002. So, the amount of RAM that it uses, 152 MB, not bad. And 28 MB video memory, not bad at all. I've measured this in the first town. Okay, so you want to tell me that I exit the room and go outside with loading screen only to go inside again with another loading screen? Well, I won't hold this against Bethesda. It's 2002, I'm sure that in the near future they will find ways around this. The frame rate inside is more than okay, 40-50 FPS. As soon as we go outside, the FPS stays below 20 all the time. After changing the shadows, I managed to take the game to 20+, but we all know that view distance is the real performance killer here. Medium view distance and yeah, 30 FPS, that's more like it. So, these are the proper settings for this game, with this card. I expected worse to be honest, but here we are.
Subject is not here. Area is secured.
Chaser is a game set on Mars, released in 2003. We have low requirements for the RAM and the processor, but 64 MB for the video card. Finally, the first game that demands equal or more than we have. These are the recommended requirements, by the way. 560 MHz Pentium 3 recommended in 2003. Why not? The video card still punches enough power, so we're still playing at 800 by 600 high settings. The game uses 206 MB of system memory and 51 MB of video memory, so we're safe with the 64 MB of the GeForce 3. And now the game. Yeah, I've never played this one before, and my first impression is of an Aliens vs Predator 2, but without aliens or predators. I've discovered this adrenaline mode, which is supposed to slow the enemies in order for us to... It's bullet time, okay? But I don't get it, I feel as slow as the enemy. The FPS is great, 40-50 FPS at its lowest and 70-80 at its highest. The game does not feel heavy at all, even during combat.
Think again, son. It's race rap.
Yes, Need for Speed Underground 2. I've played this game on a GeForce 2 MX and it was terrible. But I've also played it on a GeForce FX 5200 and it was decent. At least you could enable some nice effects such as rain splatter, light trails, motion blur and so on. Yeah, motion blur, the effect that mesmerized me as a kid, but I can't stand it right now because it looks awful in most older games. Just like HDR. Just like HDR. These are the minimum requirements, and yeah, for a game from 2004 it seems quite right. I'm playing the game at 800 by 600 medium settings, some reflections, light glow, motion blur and some shadows, just to make the game look nice. The game uses 192 MB of system memory, which is not a lot, it's 2004. We usually had 1 GB of RAM, right? 47 MB of video memory is again very good. A lot of video cards had 128 MB in 2004. The game looks great and it runs around 30-40 FPS when we don't have other racing cars around you. And around 20 when you have them. It's okay, you're soon going to lose them anyway. Yeah, not much to be said here, it's Underground 2. It runs okay. Of course, I won't be playing it on this computer, but it's nice to see how it behaves on older video cards. Finally, I must admit, the motion blur in this particular game looks nice. It does not hit you in your face, nor it makes the entire scene unreadable. But can it run Doom? Doom 3, of course. It should. The developers use the brand new programmable shaders from this card in Doom's development cycle. The minimum requirements are close to what we're using right now, except the RAM, which again is set very low, at 384 MB. We'll see about that. Known for its amazing textures when you can see them, this game is so dark I wonder why Zack Snyder hasn't made a movie based on it. I'm playing at 640 by 480, absolutely low settings. And the data shows us that Doom 3 uses 290 MB of RAM and 67 MB of VRAM, which is not bad for such a demanding game from 2004. On the other hand, I'm using the low settings. I don't know man, it's the 10th game from this video and honestly the script is already 8 pages long, my imagination hit rock bottom, you guys wanted longer videos, so here we are. If you want I can talk about why I like Doom 3 more than any other game from 2004, even Half-Life 2, I'm sure the sentiment from the audience is going to be very positive. The game runs okay. I'm glad there are no big stutters or freezes. FPS is anywhere between 15 and 60, depending on the number of enemies and particles on the screen. Of course, I won't be playing this game on this card, and if you want to see more details about how Doom 3 runs on the GeForce 3, please check the video in the description. So, these were the capabilities of the mighty GeForce 3 TI-200. Very good card for 800 by 600, high settings, even some anti-aliasing and anisotropic for 1998-2002 games. Thank you all for watching, and until next time, go watch the 90s Coca-Cola Christmas adverts for the 1000th time and be nostalgic.